This is a A1502. It's a 4924 board. They're notorious for these keyboard issues. When liquid comes in on the 1502 model, it pours in right on the keyboard connector, and it just eats away at all of these little vias all right here, and you wind up having to replace most of them with wires, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work, because these vias, they go from here, and you see here that they just end. Some of them don't go to anywhere. Some of them you have the traces along them where you get to see where the via comes out and then it goes to something. Some of them just end nowhere. They don't go anywhere. That's because this is an end cap via, but it's actually going to something inside the board on a different layer. So it depends on how corroded the thing was from the other side. Did it corrode down to where it's actually transmitting to, and will it work? Won't it work? I don't know. I've had terrible luck with these things. I hate these things. But then the control chips. So the older MacBooks, other MacBooks just have one big control chip, and they're pretty much universal to everything. These things, they changed it up a little bit, and they have these two little BGAs, and they're the same chip. I never looked up and saw what the actual chip is, but they're the same chip and they're programmable. So they need to be put back in the same spot, and they need to be procured from a donor board because they're programmed, just like an SMC. So we're going to do these one at a time. Only this one was damaged and burnt up and everything, but I don't trust the other one, and I hate working on the keyboard, so I'm going to change both of these, and we're going to change them one at a time so we don't accidentally mix them up. Beep. This tip has been getting slower and slower at heating up. I wonder if I need a new one. Unlike some of the other people around here that eat these soldering tips for lunch, I've had that tip on this iron for probably about a year and a half. I put that on new after we did the... somebody sent us in a graphics card where they liquid metaled the current sense resistors, and the liquid metal ate away my my tip. It wouldn't tin anymore, so that's when I put this on new, and I've had it ever since. So that's ready for the new one. So let's get the new one off the donor board. It sucks so much when I see a donor board that looks so much prettier than the board I'm working on. So use the right amount of flux. Okay, I used too much flux there, sorry. So here's our little keyboard chip. What do you need? I gave you my bag. Lewis has destroyed all of his XT90 power connectors for his Bafang. He's hoping that I had more, which I do not. He took all of my supply. So here's our cute little keyboard chip. Take some leaded solder, clean up all the lead-free off of this. Now, I don't wick the chip, but I just make sure that everything looks to be the same size. Nice kind of gnomish. And then that'll combine with the balls I'm about to put on. I read live chat, but I'm not good at it. I'm concentrating more on the work. I don't know how Lewis does it. I've sat here and watched him, and I don't know how he reads chat the entire time that he's working. So there's our chip ready. I'm going to give it a little bit of flux, just the right amount of flux. Spread it out. Give it just a nice thin layer of flux. Lewis is busy working on the Bafang, so I don't know, he's real frustrated with these controllers he's been getting and the customer service that he's been getting from these companies where he's buying the controllers. Some of them are trying to help him, but they don't have such a great product, and then the one that does have a really great product is being the Apple of these controllers, where they're not willing to be helpful in the slightest. They have their controller locked up so you can't even modify it. But yet, what's funny about that is that it's sold as a product to modify something that really isn't modified. You know, it's, I don't know. They're being weird. The microscopes are on a slow boat from China, I believe. They weigh a lot, so the only way to get them here at a cost that is decent so that we can be competitive with other manufacturers is to get them shipped here slowly. So I'm not sure exactly when they're going to be. I do have to check up on that. If Apple made a bike, an electric bike, that would be something interesting. How many would trust Apple brakes? They would freaking touch disease the brakes. You're riding it wrong. That's why the brakes don't work. No, the kickstand. You would have a $999 kickstand that you would have to buy, and the thing wouldn't work without it. Somehow, like, the kickstand is integral to the chain or something, and you have to buy the kickstand for $999 more. Dump out a couple balls. Get my good tweezers. Clean them off. Okay, tweezers are clean. We could start placing. Let's see. You can't even see where they're laying. No, I can't. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I have the Omano, the newer Omano microscope here, so it has the terrible tube on the camera. So that's why the chip is out of focus. The center of the screen is in focus. This is what we're trying to avoid. None of the scope manufacturers have the good tube anymore. Lewis is the only one that has the good tube in the shop. So like this is the part that there's no way I could look up at the monitor and read any chat. I don't know how Lewis does it, because he would somehow read chat while doing this. Okay, I'm a couple balls short. 3. High is here. Why is a high there and not here? High should get the cattle prod. Okay. Now we'll melt them on. Whenever people are starting out with this, their question is always, what temperature are you at? What airflow are you at? How do I use this thing? I use everything full. I have the JBC, I forget what model number this is. I have the JBC power, the hot air station, and I have set at 450 at 95% air. That's pretty much what I do everything at. You regulate your temperature and your air by how close you have it to the workpiece. There we got some melted balls. So I should try and save this whole little setup, the tape and everything, because we're just going to be doing another one of these right away. So I saved the entire thing, put it off to the side, so I don't have to retape it. So I like when this happens. When manufacturers of something build it into their chip, the clocking of it. So there's no reason for me to go to the schematic and see where pin 1 is on this, because Apple can't screw you up on where pin 1 is, because one ball is missing out of the chip. So we just put it on. If Apple had it their way, that ball would be there, just to confuse you a little bit more. Put the right amount of flux. Push down on the chip, try to move it around. You'll feel when it has fallen into the spot. Now the way I do this, I don't suggest anybody that's just starting out like this. I push down on the chip because I know when it's going to melt. So I push down on the chip just to get it to adhere. Now the flux is a little bit harder. It's going to make sure it stays there. Because if I'm pushing down on that chip when it melts, that's it, it's done. All the balls are one giant lump underneath there. Make it dance, and that one's done. Now I can just heat this one off right away. You can see how much more it takes to melt the lead-free solder. The chip I just put on there was dancing again before this one even came off. Just waiting for the iron to beep. Add some leaded solder. Pick up all that lead free. Then we'll wick the pads. I'm a habitual Q-tipper. Everything I work on gets Q-tipped while I'm working on it, after I work on it, before I work on it. Now let's harvest the next chip. It's not easy to get things to fly off the board with hot air. The lead, when it melts, it's so heavy that it doesn't want to let go of things. So unless you have a smaller nozzle than this, where it puts out a lot more air pressure than this, you can't knock things off easily. It's the perfect amount of flux. I don't want to hear that. See how it stays in a perfect little pool right around the chip. Doesn't go flying everywhere. Another thing that people always ask about and don't realize is the size of the stuff that we deal with. So these chips are pretty big as far as the stuff that we deal with all the time. Here's a penny. It's a normal penny. That's the size of the chip. The chip is smaller than the date of a penny. Load up my soldering iron with some leaded flux. I'll clean off all the lead free off of this. Okay, the right amount of flux. Yes, that is the right amount of flux. Spread it out.
Spread the seeds.
How's it going? Lovely keyboard? Happy keyboard chip?
One happy keyboard chip. Working on the second.
Is it a happy keyboard?
Probably not.
Why not a happy keyboard?
What if they don't get along with this chip? It was friends with the old chip, but it killed the old chip.
Maybe it killed the old chip.
How do we know it's going to like this chip? What if they fight? Two chips, one stencil. Hey, Tim, how's it going? Yeah, but they're a programmable chip, Tim. Here's a better size comparison. The size of the ball. So, there's your penny. There's one ball that I'm working with. Let's see. Fit inside the B of Liberty. Now we'll melt this down into place. Okay, two of the balls don't want to go to their pads. More flux. Get on there. That's your home. Go to your home. Are you too good for your home? This thing's being a real jerk. Okay, overheated the mat. It's all popping up. That's why it's out of focus. The chip moved. Gave me a hard time. There. Now it's centered under its pad. Let's try again. There you go. Yeah, that's funny. Call me an intern again. Okay, I'm not inclined to test this with this much flux in the connector. So this connector's been replaced and all the wires were run. So this will get ultrasonic before any testing is done. But let's go on to switch channels, switch cameras. Oh no. Lewis just stole the fume extractor hose from a Nell station and just walked away with it with a funny look on his face. I don't want to know what's going on up there.
This video is brought to you by our sponsors at store.rossmangroup.com. Thank you for supporting our sponsors that help keep us in business. On store.rossmangroup.com, you can find chips, supplies, ultrasonics, flux, soldering stations, and more. With 4.9 stars on Shopper Approved, same-day shipping from New York City, and free continental shipping over $30 you can't lose. We even offer free support, unless you're a Please Bro, live chat, and are adding new products every day. If you buy today, we'll throw in a special offer that your order will actually go through properly. What are you waiting for? Go to store.rossmangroup.com to get yourself some authentic Amtech flux. Don't delay. Buy today.